Welcome back to part 2 of the Richest Man in Babylon book study. This is such an important lesson, guys, especially in the body of Christ. This is one of those books that everybody should read. I should have read it. I thought I had read it. A good friend of mine was like, hey, you ever read this book? And I was like, oh, yeah. I think I read that years ago. He starts talking about it, and I'm like, oh, man, I've never read that. This is one of those staple books that needs to be in your life if you want to learn how to create wealth, how money works. Why are some people rich and some people are poor? How come some people work their butts off their whole life and never get anywhere? How come people work so hard yet never prosper? This tells you. You didn't read it. Cool part is, it was written in 1926. And one of the things it talks about is there are principles and laws and precepts. We talk about this from the Word, from Proverbs and things like this, that are so true that it doesn't matter when you hear them, they will apply. They are like the stars in the sky that you can steer your course using. That's how established these truths are. It's great. So anyway, we're in part 2 right now. The concept of this book, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. What we do is we teach Christians money mindset, but we teach it in a way, it's not just money. We just teach you how to win at life. I'll be honest with you. We teach you how to increase. That's our word around here. A lot of other people teach decrease. You need to cut this, cut your expenses, lower this, save money, save money, save money. We teach you how to live a big life now and later. We teach you how to create income streams. We teach you how to create passive income. We teach you how to invest. We teach you money mindset and how to believe God for abundance and increase and how to progress in life so that you don't make some of the same mistakes that happened in this book where people work hard their whole lives and have nothing to show for it. Basically just living in the rat race. And what really stood out to me is I've had several conversations with amazing men and women of faith who've done amazing things in ministry, but have looked at me and said, Trav, I've never learned faith for finances. I never learned how the money stuff works. So now I'm up in years and I don't have anything to show for it. It's kind of like I should be wealthier, but I'm not. Well, and to be honest with you, Trav, I never worked at it. I never looked into it. I never even gave it attention, and I should have. This book will help you do it. My channel will help you do that. I've got courses and programs and curriculum that will help you do that in a way that honors God. Psalms 112, I call it the profile of a Christian. It's where I got the concept of being a rich Christian. It's basically an amazing man of God, woman of God, who's full of character and integrity and wealth. They honor God in all that they do, and they're generous, wildly generous. One translation says they give with reckless abandon. They're so generous. Yet have wealth, yet honor God at the same time. That's us, and that's available to anybody. So I'm here teaching you these concepts, these precepts, these principles, these laws, so that you can apply them and create income and wealth for you and your family, free up your time, free up your money, so that you can focus on the big things God has for you. You've got a call on your life. Well, let's not let something as little as money get in the way, shall we? I'll show you how to do that. So make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell because I've got lessons and trainings like this coming out all the time. You don't want to miss a single one because it will change your life. It's changed mine. Now I'm teaching it to you. So let's get back to the book because this chapter is super exciting for me. Of course, make sure you watched episode 1 of this series. But a quick recap is basically there's 2 best friends, 2 men. They've got families. They're full grown. They're adults. They're getting up there in years. And they're both really, really hard workers. And they thought that working hard would be all they needed to do in order to get wealthy. Yet they keep finding themselves broke. They can barely feed their families and adequately clothe them. Yet one of the main character has a dream where in this dream he was wealthy. He had a big bag of gold that he carried with him. And he was given to the poor, given to the homeless, helping people, blessing people. But he was ordering the finest things for his family and fine clothing for his wife. And he was free. And he felt financial security. And he had peace. And that felt awesome. And then he woke up and was bummed and discouraged and down to find that it was just a dream. And he has none of those things. Yet, he doesn't know how to get them. So he's bummed out. He's looking at his workshop. he's become one of the finest chariot builders in the whole city. And Babylon is the richest city on the planet at the time. And he's become the finest chariot builder. Yet, no matter what, he works hard, works long hours, does all the things you think would lead to prosperity, yet all of his money is eaten up. So his best friend, I'm not probably recapping too hard, best friend comes along and says, I'm the best guitar player in all the land, and yet I don't have any money either. And then they realized everything that we've set out to do, we've accomplished. We set out to become these things, we did it. But we never set out to pursue wealth and learn how it works. I bet if we pursue that, we would succeed in it also. So they found their friend, Arcad, who is the wealthiest man in the city, known for being wildly generous and blessing people. And they go to him and they say, what did you do? We all grew up together. You had no benefits, nothing better than we did. You weren't rich. You weren't smarter than us. You weren't better at sports than us. You weren't better at anything than us. You didn't work harder than us, that's for sure. How did you end up here? And we ended up here. And he says, my friends, if you have not learned to acquire wealth by now, it's simply because you never learned the laws that govern wealth, or you failed to observe them. And so now we're going into what he actually teaches these fellows and how he himself learned to become wealthy. So Arcad says this. First thing he did was he decided, so they lived in Babylon, and Babylon was the wealthiest city, but it also had a very impoverished aspect to it as well. So you had extremely rich and you had extremely poor, and you could look and see both. And he said, I have decided that I will not have the lot of a poor man. I won't live a poor man's life. I decided that. I'm making a decision. I'm going to be able to enjoy the finer things that this world has to offer. He talks about, I'm only on this planet one time for a short period of time. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to crush it, in other words. That's how I look at it. And I agree with that. Hey, we're only down here one time. You're God's highest form of creation. You're working for him. You're living for him. There's nothing wrong with having the best things in life. In fact, Isaiah 1:19 says, if you are willing and if you are obedient, you will eat the best of the land. You will have the best of the land. In Deuteronomy 8, it talks about once you've built fine homes, multiple homes for you to live in, and your gold's multiplied, your silver's multiplied, your cattle's multiplied, your land's multiplied, your employees are multiplied, then just remember to give God credit, because it was he who gives you the power to get wealth. So it's okay to have all these things. Remember Psalms 112. You can have wealth as well as character, integrity, and honor for God. You can have all those things. I think we're past that, right? Like we're a little bit smarter than that. You've read the Bible. We're past that. So here's a man saying the same things. I will not be satisfied with the lot of a poor man. I don't need to be. So he made this decision. That was step one. He decided that if I was to achieve what I desired, time and study would be required. So he desired to become wealthy, and he just realized, man, it's going to take time, it's going to take some study. All right? Same thing if you want to become great at selling cars, selling houses, building websites, building logos, being an admin at the company, whatever it is you're doing, you are giving it time, study, effort, and energy. He's just saying, I need to do all those things, but just focused over here. Now, he goes on to say, as for time, he basically breaks all the excuses, right? As for time, all men have it in abundance. So don't say you don't have the time to learn how to do this. You do. All men have time in abundance. You, each of you, have let slip by sufficient time to have made yourselves wealthy. Now the scenario is he's sitting down with his childhood friends. They even brought some extra people from his childhood to come and listen in as Arcad tells them the secrets to become wealthy. So imagine looking out on your childhood friends and saying, I don't know how old they are. I'm going to say they're about 45 or 50 years old in the story, just guessing based off the context. As for time, all men have it in abundance. You, each of you, have let slip by sufficient time to make yourselves wealthy. And this applies to Christians. This applies to people in the ministry. You don't have to be a businessman or a ministry person. There's a weird dichotomy people put these two things into. No, stop. What? It doesn't say in the Bible you can either be a business person or a ministry person, and you can't cross lines, and there's no intersections, and they're two different races of people almost or something. No, it doesn't say that. We made that up. You, each of you, have let slip by sufficient time to have made yourselves wealthy. Yet, you admit you have nothing to show for all of your time and your hard work except for your families. And he says that's a good thing. And you should be justly proud. You've done well in that. You've got families, you've raised up kids and a wife and all those things. Great job. Cool. But you've let enough time. You could have been wealthy by now. As for study, remember he said you need time. I'm going to need time, and there's going to be study required in order for me to do this. Because he said I didn't come from means. I come from a humble merchant family, and I had a lot of brothers and sisters. We did not have much growing up. So I knew I'd have to put time and study into this. So as for time, all men have it in abundance. As for study, did not our wise teacher teach us that there was two kinds of learning? One kind being the things we learned and knew, like in school. And the second kind, the other being the training that taught us how to find out what we did not know. Yo, this is great. This is powerful. There's two types of learning, like stuff you learn in school. But then the other type is learning how to learning how to find the answer. You don't have an answer. You need to go learn how to figure out and find out answers versus saying, I just don't know. Well, I don't know how to be rich. I'm not that smart. I didn't go to college. I don't have an MBA. I just don't know. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'd probably just mess something up. You are limiting yourself, and I want to grab you by the shirt collar if you're saying those things. You better stop. You better not let another word like that come out of your mouth or come out of your mind. Stop that. You can learn anything. What do I always say? Everything is figure outable. You can find the answers. So that's what he's saying here. Therefore, did I decide to find out how one might accumulate wealth, and when I had found out, I would make this my task, and I would do it well, just like anything else. You might work at a cell phone store. You might work at a retail shop. Wherever you work, you had to learn new stuff, and the first day was pretty overwhelming. If you're a waiter and you had to learn the menu, it's pretty overwhelming at first. But it was a task, and you decided, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it well. So Arcad, what he did is he went and he got a job as a scribe, basically writing things into clay tablets, okay? Week after week, month after month, I labored. Yet for my earnings, I had nothing to show. Food and clothing and penance to the gods, which is kind of interesting, although we don't believe in gods, we believe in God, yet he was still tithing, in a sense. I don't know if that plays in, but just something to think about. Food and clothing. The other things of which I couldn't remember, but it absorbed all my earnings. But my determination did not leave me. And he said one day, a guy named Algamish, who was a moneylender, came to the house of the city master and ordered a copy of the 9th law, and that was his job to go and make it. And he said, I must have this in 2 days, and if this task is done by that time, 2 coppers will I give to thee. So basically, I need this quick, I need a rush order, and if you do it in 2 days, I'll give you extra. So I labored hard. Remember, this is Arcad, the rich guy talking. I labored hard, but the law was long, and when Algamish returned, the task was unfinished. He was angry, and had I been his slave, he probably would have beaten me. But knowing the city master would not permit him to injure me, I was unafraid. So I said to him, Algamish, you are a very rich man. Tell me how I may also become rich, and all night I will carve upon the clay, and when the sun rises, it will be done. He smiled at me and replied, You're pretty brave. You're pretty bold. But we'll do it. We'll call it a deal. All that night I carved. Though my back pained and the smell of the wick made my head ache until my eyes could hardly see, but when he returned at sunup, the tablets were complete. Now I said, Tell me what you promised. And he says, Okay, I will give you advice. And he says, I thought this was cool. It kind of made me think of Solomon in Proverbs. But he said, You have fulfilled your part of our bargain, my son, he said to me kindly, and I'm ready to fulfill mine. I will tell you these things you wish to know because I'm becoming an old man, and an old tongue loves to wag. And when youth comes to age for advice, he receives the wisdom of years. But too often does the youth think that age knows only the wisdom of the days that are gone. You know, like what you're saying is good, but that was for back in the day. Like that doesn't work anymore. That doesn't apply to today. That's what the youth would think. But too often does the youth think the age knows only the wisdom of days that are gone, and therefore profits not for today. But remember this, the sun that shines today is the sun that shone when thy father was born, and will still be shining when thy last grandchild passes away. The thoughts of youth, he continued, are bright lights that shine forth like the meteors that make the brilliant sky. But the wisdom of age is like the fixed stars that shine so unchanged that the sailor may depend upon them to steer his course. That's poetic, and I really like it, and it makes me think of Proverbs, like I said. Oh, it's good. The wisdom of age is like the fixed stars that shine so unchanged that the sailor may depend upon them to steer his course. Meaning the principles I'm going to teach you are going to work forever. These principles and these laws of wealth will always work. So he said, I'm going to help you. And he just said this with a forceful tone. I found the road to wealth when I decided that a part of all I earned was mine to keep. And so will you. And he continued, and Arcad said, is that it? That's all? And Algamesh replied, that was sufficient to change the heart of a sheep herder into the heart of a moneylender, he replied. But all I earn is mine to keep, is it not? Far from it, he replied. Do you not pay, and I'll put it into today's lingo, do you not pay car insurance, your car note, your mortgage or rent? Do you not pay the cell phone store? Do you not pay for cable and internet? Do you not pay for your kids' tuition? Do you not pay for the new clothes that you need to update? Do you not pay for your haircuts? Do you not pay for, and he goes down the list, and he says, what you have to show for your earnings, what do you have to show for your earnings for the past month? What do you have to show for the past year? Fool, you pay to everyone but yourself. You labor for others, as well be a slave and work for what your master gives you to eat and to wear. If you did keep for yourself 1/10 of all you earn, how much would you have in 10 years? Arcad replied, well, my knowledge of the numbers did not forsake me, and I answered, I would have as much as I earn in 1 year. Basically, he's saying, I would have saved up a year's wages, 35 grand, 45 grand, I would have that if I would have kept a 10th. You speak but half the truth, he retorted. Every gold piece you save is a slave to work for you. Every copper it earns is its child that can also earn for you. If you want to become wealthy, then what you save must earn and work for you, and its children must earn and work for you, that all may help to give you the abundance that you crave. Isn't that interesting? Are we doing that? Wealth, like a tree, grows from a tiny seed. The first copper you save is the seed from which your tree of wealth shall grow. The sooner you plant that seed, the sooner shall your tree grow. And the more faithfully you nourish and water that tree with consistent savings, the sooner may you bask in contentment beneath its shade. This is a different way to think about money, guys. See, we've been thinking about money and savings accounts as, that's what we save it up for a rainy day. Save it up in case something on the house breaks, something in the car breaks. And guess what? That rainy day comes and there goes all your money. But what he's saying is we store up our money and put it to work for us. Arcad thought much about what he had said, and it seemed reasonable, so I decided I would try it. Each time I was paid, now I want you guys to listen to this, because this is what happened to me when I started tithing. So inside of our teachings in Increase University and Kingdom Money Mastery, so it's cool is we actually have programs that teach you all this and what it looks like today, how to structure bank accounts and all that. But what we teach is the 10-10-10-70 rule. You're going to tithe the first 10% of your income. You are going to save. We have a teaching called storage accounts instead of savings accounts. But you're going to save the next 10%, and you're going to invest the next 10% and live and give off the remaining 70. Now, listen to what he says here, because this is exactly what happened to me, what I experienced, and my students who followed the instructions. It says this: I decided I would try it. Each time I was paid, I took one from the 10 pieces of copper, so I took a tenth, and I hid it away. And strange as it may seem, I was no shorter of funds than before. I noticed a little difference as I managed to get along without it. But often I was tempted, as my hoard began to grow, to spend it for some of the good things the merchants displayed, brought by camels and ships from the land of the Phoenicians. But I wisely refrained. 12 months after Algamesh had gone, he returned again and said, "Son, have you done it? Have you saved yourself 1/10 of all you earned?" I answered proudly, "Yes, master, I have." "That is good," he answered, beaming upon me. "And what have you done with it?" "I have given it to Asmar, the brickmaker, who told me he was traveling to the far seas of Tyre. He would buy for me the rare jewels of the Phoenicians. When he returns, we shall sell these at high prices and divide the earnings." "Every fool must learn," he growled. "Why trust the brickmaker about your jewels? Would you go to the bread maker to inquire about the stars? No, you would go to an astrologer. If you had the power to think, that's what you would have done. Your savings are gone, youth. You have jerked your wealth tree up by the roots. But plant another. Try again. And next time, if you would have advice about jewels, go to a jewel merchant, not a brickmaker." Interesting little pieces of advice in here, isn't it? Advice is one thing that is freely given away, but watch that you take only what is worth having. He who takes advice about his savings from one who is inexperienced in such matters shall pay with his savings for proving the falsity of their opinions. Saying this, he went away. And it was as he was said, for the Phoenicians are scoundrels and sold to Asmar worthless bits of glass that looked like gems. But as Algamesh had bid me, I again saved. He started over. Okay, so he saved up for a year. He tried something, he invested, and he lost it. Lesson learned. He didn't give up. He didn't say, "I'm done investing. This isn't for me. See, I told you I'm stupid. See, I told you I didn't know anything about this. I'm such an idiot." Oh, I hear that stuff all the time. People who try something, it doesn't work out, and so they just quit because they say, "See, I told you I was an entrepreneur. See, I told you I'm not smart enough for this. See, I told you I'm dumb. See, I told you, so I'm out." You can't get ahead that way. Like, we have to mature past that. We have to level up past that. We can't let the enemy accuse us of these falsehoods, and believe them. We believe the lie of the enemy when we say and give into those things, because that does not sound like God. That does not sound like my dad. That sounds like the enemy trying to get you to quit. So stop it. Stop listening to that voice. So he goes on, and he says, "But again, so I started over, and I started to save 1/10 of everything I earned. And now I had formed a habit, and it was no longer difficult." So what happens next? He comes back again a year later. "What progress have you made since the last time I saw you?" "I've paid myself faithfully, and my savings I've entrusted to Agar the shield maker to buy bronze, and each 4th month he pays me a rental fee, like a dividend." "That is good. And what do you do with the dividends?" And he says, I have a great feast with honey and fine wine and spiced cake. I bought myself a scarlet tunic, and someday I shall buy myself a nice young donkey on which to ride. Buy myself a new car." Right? Algamesh laughed. "You do eat the children of your savings. Then how do you expect them to work for you? And how can they have children that will also work for you? First get thee an army of golden slaves, and then many a rich banquet may you enjoy without regret." Basically saying, like, you stop short. We got to get your money working for you and those dividends to work for you also. Then you can go in and have the banquets and the nice stuff and get the car. All right? So this time he was gone. Algamesh was gone for 2 years. And he came back. And he said something interesting. He comes back to him. And he says, "Arkad, have you achieved the wealth you've dreamed of?" I answered, "Not yet all that I desire, but some I have, and it earns more, and its earnings earn me more." "Do you still take the advice of brickmakers?" "Only about brickmaking." "Arkad," he continued, "you have learned your lessons well. You first learn to live upon less than you can earn. Next, you learn to seek advice from those who are competent enough through their own experiences to give it. And lastly, you have learned to make your gold work for you. You've taught yourself how to acquire money, how to keep it, and how to use it. Therefore, you are competent for my responsible position. Basically, he goes on to say, I've become an old man and I have lots of property. I have lots of assets. I have lots of income streams, and I'm too old to keep doing it, and my kids aren't interested. I've been looking for somebody. I think it's you. You have shown me that you are responsible. Now listen to this. Doesn't this parallel the parable of talents? See, the parable of the talents, what you have to remember is most people think that the good talent, or the good steward, is the person who saves and hoards their money and saves up as much as possible. But that's not what the parable says. The parable says the person who took the 5 talents, which was about $55,000, if you do the math in today's money, he took $55,000 and went to the marketplace, traded it, and doubled it, and earned a profit. That guy, same with the second guy, were the ones who were told, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been responsible with a little, I'll make you responsible over much. See, the deception is most people think, oh, I'm a good steward because I clip coupons, spend as little as money, I never go out to eat, yada, yada, yada. I do all those things. Now I'm a good steward. No. The scripture says that person was called wicked and lazy and thrown out into the darkness. And they took what little money he had and gave it to the guy who was good at earning money, the guy who was good at increasing. That's what happened here. This guy learned increase, and it goes on to say, you have mastered the 3 laws of successfully handling wealth. And I was able to greatly increase the value of his properties. So he went to go work for that guy. The guy saw him as somebody who could take over because he did the lessons. He did the things to acquire wealth. He followed the instructions and acquired money, saved up so that he could move that money into things that made money for him. And now Algamesh was like, hey, I see what you're doing. Come do it for me. And that made him very wealthy. And then when that man passed away, he left all that business and income streams and stuff to him. That's how this works. That's powerful. That's the parable of the talents in action. But again, it's not how you've been thinking about it. It's the real lesson of the parable of the talents. Go reread it. It's Matthew 25:14. Go read it. You haven't read it in a while. So it goes on to say, so they spoke to Arcad, and they said this. One of his friends said, you were indeed fortunate that Algamesh made you his heir. Oh, you're so lucky that you met that guy. And he's saying, luck? Fortunate? Are you kidding me? Fortunate only in that I had the desire to prosper before I met him. For 4 years, did I not prove my definiteness of purpose by keeping 1/10 of all I earned? Would you call a fisherman lucky who for years studies the habits of the fish, that with each changing wind he could cast his nets about them? Opportunity wastes no time with those who are unprepared. I remember my first online business was an e-commerce business. I still have it to this day. And I remember somebody in my family saying, man, sure is lucky you stumbled across that. And I thought, luck? What? No, I've been reading books. I've been studying. I've been learning business. I've been learning how to do an online business, how to set it up, get it going, what to look for. So I was prepared. And then I was able to see opportunity. Because what I started selling on my first business, everybody else could have done it, but nobody was prepared. I was the only one. So I saw the opportunity. Just like we're reading here. He's saying the same things, right? This is written in 1926, but it's even reflecting the thousands of years before that. It's all the same deceptions and tricks of the enemy. Man, you're so lucky that happened to you. You say, luck? Are you kidding me? I was determined I was going to prosper. I was determined I was going to figure out this wealth thing. I went and I sought advice. I went and I was disciplined. I saved up money for 4 years. I tried this investment, didn't work, but I kept going. I tried this one. I tried this one. I tried this one. Don't call me lucky. Are you kidding me? This applies in the Christian realm. Christians have to take on this attitude too. That's why the world is prospering and making more money than you. That's why the world's beating you. Is because they're doing this. When we're over here just being like, wonder why God's not blessing me. God, what have I done? Maybe I wasn't nice enough to somebody, or maybe I need to, I don't know, maybe I didn't give enough, or maybe I didn't, God, what have I done wrong? Why aren't you blessing me? And he's like, yo, you aren't doing things that make money. All right, I'm getting riled up. I teach you how to do all this. Links below if you want to come actually learn these things. Second guy says, man, you had strong willpower to keep on after you lost your first year's savings. You were unusual in that way. That's why it worked for you, because you have extra willpower. So that's why you were able to do. You're special. And he says, willpower? What nonsense. Do you think willpower gives the man a strength to lift a burden the camel cannot carry, or to draw the load the oxen cannot budge? Willpower is but the unflinching purpose to carry a task that you've set for yourself. That's it. If I set for myself a task, even if it gets hard, I see it through. How else shall I have confidence in myself to do important things? Basically saying, don't call me lucky. Don't say I'm special. You can do all this stuff. If I set a task before myself, I just do it. I'm a man of my word. You can do that too. When I set a task for myself, I complete it, even if it's difficult. Another friend spoke up and said, well, if what you tell me is true, gosh, this is so funny. I hear these things today. All right, listen to this one. Another friend spoke up and said, well, if what you say is true, and it does seem, as you have said, reasonable, and it seems so simple, then if all the men did it, there would be not enough wealth to go around. If it's that easy, then everyone would get rich. What do you have to say about that? Dude, I'm telling you, I hear this stuff. People still say these things. He answered, wealth grows wherever men exert energy. Now listen up, because what he says parallels what I teach about. The purpose of money is to circulate. Money isn't ever wasted, it just transfers hands. So some people will be like, oh, it was a waste of money, you bought this. It was so excessive, you bought this. What a luxury, you bought that. You didn't need something that big, that's a waste of money. No. You don't waste money. You only waste money if you put it in a trash, if you take physical cash, put it in a trash can, and burn it. That's how you waste money. Money circulates. And he explains that here. If a rich man builds himself a new palace, is the gold he pays out gone? So like if I went and I built myself a mansion, and you might say, that is excessive. You don't need 9 bedrooms. What a waste. You don't need a 6-car garage. You don't need a swimming pool that big. What a waste. He says this, if a rich man builds himself a new palace, is the gold he pays out gone? No. The brickmaker has a part of it. The laborer has a part of it. The artist has a part of it. And everyone who labors upon the house has a part of it. That money just circulates. It goes out. Yet, when the palace is completed, is it not worth all it cost? So if I build a mansion for $4 million, that money circulates out, and then now my house is worth $6 million, and the land it's on is worth more. It goes on to say, and the land that adjoins it is now worth more because the value's increased because of this new property. Dude, think about it, guys. Wealth grows in magic ways. No man can prophesy the limit of it. Other people said, what then do you advise us to go do that we may also become rich? Asked some of his other friends. The years have passed and we are no longer young men and we have nothing put by. We have nothing saved up. I advise you that you take the wisdom of Algamish and say to yourselves, the part of all I earn is mine to keep. All right? And he talks about when you do this, commit to it. And as it grows, it'll stimulate you. It'll get you pumped. It'll get you excited. A new joy of life will thrill you. Greater efforts will come, so you will learn to earn more. For every increased earning, keep the same percentage. Then, learn to make your treasure work for you. Make it your slave. Make its children and its children work for you. Ensure an income for your future. It goes on. Take care of your families and all that kind of stuff. Counsel with wise men. Seek the advice of men whose daily work is handling money. Let them save you from the errors I myself have made. Enjoy life while you're here. Do not overstrain to try and save too much. So it's basically saying, and don't be a penny pincher. Like, don't be this person who just lives so small that life is horrible. Right? You guys know how I feel about that too, and what I teach on that. Don't live that way either. Don't be afraid to spend. Life is good. Life is rich with things worthwhile and things to enjoy, family, friends, and all that stuff too. Enjoy it. Have fun. But save 1/10 of everything you earn too. He's kind of teaching balance, right? Don't be this self-made poverty person who pinches every penny and just lives a miserable life to try to save. No, just save a tenth and enjoy life while you're here. Okay? Great advice. His friends thanked him and went away. Some were silent because they had no imagination and could not understand. Some were sarcastic because they thought that one so rich should divide his riches with old friends who were not as fortunate as he was. Isn't this what we deal with today? Isn't this a lot like that socialistic view, communistic view, maybe even a very liberal view? Oh, hey, those wealthy people, you're wealthy, you're lucky. Man, you should be sharing that with other people. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. But some of the men there, in their eyes, they had a new light. They were excited. They realized that Algamish had come back each time to the room with the scribe because he was watching a man work his way out of darkness into light. When that man had found the light, a place awaited him. Think on that. No one could fill that place until he had, for himself, worked out his own understanding, until he was ready for the opportunity. That's what I want you guys to get. I think the main issue, it's funny, but as Christians, we actually have the divine financial advantage. But I think you believe that, but I think you're thinking it's the wrong thing. We keep thinking the divine financial advantage is that we don't have to do anything and God will just make us rich. I know one day I'll be wealthy. I know God's going to bless me. I know he's going to get his blessings to me. I know one day when I'm ready for it, once I've worked some stuff out, God will prosper me and make me rich. I know people who've said that for 25 years and it still hasn't happened. I know people, I had a talk with a buddy of mine who's, we were talking about getting up to that $10 million level and how to get there and stuff. And he was like, man, I just think, God's working some stuff in me and when I'm ready, he will let that happen. And I looked at him and I was like, that's a bunch of bull. I don't cuss, I literally said bull. I was like, that's a bunch of bull. Look, because this dude is the most righteous, integrous man full of character I've ever met. I mean, I learned from him. He says stuff and I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy is full. I need to be like him. That's not what's happening. It's not God withholding money from you until you perform better. Nothing in the new covenant operates that way. Why would money be any different? You can't earn health and healing because you performed better. You can't earn salvation because you performed a certain way. We know that. There's dozens of scriptures that tell you that. Go read the book of Romans. Go read Ephesians. It's not performance-based and God withholding money and he releases funds to you as you perform a certain way or be a better steward who spends less money. Oh man, I ate out too much this week. God can't bless me now. What scripture are you talking about? Of all these unchallenged beliefs. When the truth is, you just never learned how to put your money to work for you. Christian or not. So the divine financial advantage isn't that God will magically make you rich because you're a Christian. The divine financial advantage is that God has sent the Holy Spirit to lead us and to guide us into what we put our hands to. Deuteronomy 28. If you obey the voice of the Lord, everything you put your hand to will prosper. 28:8. God himself will command a blessing upon your storehouse, upon you, and upon all that you undertake. Just undertake this a little bit. I'm not saying, and he's not saying pursue wealth until you stray from the faith. He's not saying love money, which we know is 1 Timothy 6:10. The love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, and some, in pursuit of it, have strayed from the faith. That's what it really says. You probably haven't read that one in a while either. Go check it out. He's not saying all that. He's just saying, enjoy life now. Save a tenth. and then we're going to put that 10th to work. Oh, great idea. I like that thought. Because when it starts working for me, now I earn money whether I'm awake, whether I'm asleep, whether I work, whether I travel, whether I'm at home, because my money is working for me, and its children start working for me, and their children start working for me too. Little employees. This is an exciting book. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell, because pretty soon I'm going to be dropping part 3. You're not going to want to miss it, because this book just gets better and better and better. More exciting, more exciting, more exciting. I'm trying to change the way you see things, the way you see money, and how it works for you. If you're new here, I currently have it set for free. You can click below and join the Increase Challenge. It is going to help you find all your limiting money mindsets, all the beliefs. I'm going to show you how to remove guilt, greed, and shame around money. I'm going to show you how to become the person who can go out to eat whenever they want and pay for other people's meals, live a life of generosity. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you how to activate God's promise for increase in your life. And then we're going to cover specific strategies that you can use as well. We've got a program called Passive Income Engines, and it shows you how to use some unique crypto investing strategies that you can invest in that will pay you a nice dividend or reward every single month. In fact, we have students who are making so much money doing this that they've quit their day jobs, they've resigned their spouses. We have some people making over $1,000 a day. We've got a couple guys making over $2,000 a day. I mean, I'm talking like great money, life-changing money inside of the Passive Income Engines program. I'll put a link below if you'd like to check that out as well. But this is what we have to learn to do, because like I said at the beginning, you've got a big call of God on your life. Let's not let something as little and pesky as money get in the way of that. All right, stick with me. We're going to keep going through this book and dissecting the gold, pulling out the lessons in here so that we too can learn how to make our money work for us. And then again, resources are below if you want my step-by-step help with doing that too. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one.